Yo, what's good, everyone? I appreciate y'all for tuning in this late show because I had stuff to do and I've been behind all week. I know I got to do better. I'm gonna turn over a new leaf eventually, as soon as I finish this class. This not is more challenging than I anticipated. In any event, I'm Marcus. I'm an attorney. Here we do attorney reactions to current events, trending news, topics, all all of that type of stuff. If you get some value out of the content, I invite you to like, share, subscribe, comment. A big salute to everybody who supports all of the channel subscribers, all the viewers, everyone who comment, everyone who likes, everyone, hell, the people who hit the dislike button. And a big round of applause and salute to the channel members for the additional support. You guys are the executive producer of the show, so you all have first dibs on what we talk about on this show. So, hey, shoot me an email, officialdebtfreedad@gmail.com, if you got a topic or something you want to talk about or discuss. Now, this video is going to be interesting because we're going to move around to a few topics that we've talked about before. One is an update with a little bit more information. But in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about the stand your ground law. We went over a story a week ago about a teen who was charged with an assault. The victim wants to let it go, and he's still sitting in custody. And it sounds like he was just trying to protect his moms, who was apparently involved in a domestic abusive relationship from the facts that we have. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I gave my idea and theory on why his bond was so high and why the prosecution isn't going to let this go. But now that we have more facts, I think my justification and rationale is actually more on point and makes sense. Also, we're going to talk about a squatter, an Airbnb situation that turned terrible pretty quickly. It happened in DC. We're going to talk about it. We're going to have a video where we talk a little bit about kids just do the dumbest things. And this is actually a funny story because the child involved ended up being safe, but it was kind of ridiculous. Hey, what's going on? I appreciate you for tuning in. Appreciate you tuning in. And finally, we're going to go through a DOJ press release about a former DEA agent who wanted to just turn corrupt and money launder for the cartel. This is actually a pretty common thing. We've seen it. We've talked about a former DEA agent. They call them the white wolf. Like, hey, when there's a lot of money, drugs, butt-naked women involved, people will sometimes do things that they probably shouldn't do to take advantage. So we're going to dive into those stories, and all shout out to you for dropping the first comment of the day. I have just a regular t-shirt on, no collar, no tie, nothing crazy. I'm going to keep it plain and simple because I don't need you firing me up. I know, but hey, equal pride to you. And did you do your, I did my annual donation to the law school this week. But I think I'm going to do, they used to not have it, but now they have it. They have, you could do like a recurring contribution. I think I'm going to do a recurring contribution because I think it's easier than just giving up one lump sum. And plus, I think if it's a recurring contribution, bi-weekly or monthly, you're more inclined to contribute more because even though it's more in the totality, it's a smaller amount being taken out over shorter periods of time. So that's what I think I'm going to do. I'll do that. I will. You shoot me an email, and you shoot me an email. That's my holiday gift to you. I give my donations to PBAP because hey, your boy was a PBAP guy, so I give all my donations to PBAP. But shoot me an email. Hey, shoot me an email with your information, and that'll be my gift to you. And it won't be nothing too tacky either. I got you. It'll be my gift to you. Let's go ahead and dive into our first story. We're going to talk about a story. See, we had so much in common. You shouldn't even come for me as much as you do. Hey, shout out to PBAP. It gave me a head start. So I felt like I was like 6 weeks ahead of everybody else. Yeah, I felt like I was 6 weeks ahead of everybody else. Yeah, hey, at a minimum. At a minimum. I don't know about that for you, but I do something. I give a donation for you. I don't know if it's gonna be 1K though. Your boy ain't got it like that. I had to deal with furlough. But I definitely would do it. You shoot me your information, I do it, and I'll CC you on the email so you can confirm that I followed through. Let's go ahead and dive in and catch up with this story, talking about standing your ground and how this poor young black man, in my opinion, is getting screwed over royally.
The family of a man who was shot and killed by a DC police officer last week is questioning the officer's tactics.
Oh man, see, as soon as I think I have everything squared away, I don't have everything squared away. And what? This is crazy. All right, we're gonna jump around it. All right, first, let's touch bases on the two stories coming out of the district. The first one is use of force incident by law enforcement that is getting some scrutiny in the district. We're going to take a look at it. They had the body-worn camera footage. Of course, they paused it prior to the actual shooting incident occurring, which is good because it's kind of graphic. But you can hear the audio. Let's check this out, and then I want y'all to let me know, what are y'all thoughts? Is this a fair shoot or foul shoot on behalf of the law enforcement officers? Let me know.
The family of a man who was shot and killed by a DC police officer last week is questioning the officer's tactics and training after viewing the body camera video. 25-year-old David Childs was shot after police say he refused to obey the officer's commands and appeared to reach for a firearm in his waistband. DC police released the video this week, and a warning, you may find it disturbing to watch.
All right, real quick before we watch the video, I'll tell you this is actually common. There's actual mandates. There was actually an executive order that has previously been rescinded that actually encouraged federal law enforcement agencies to release body-worn camera footage for use of force situations where death or severe bodily harm has occurred. It's a way to try to gain public support, and it's also a way to allow the public to just see and say, hey, based on this video, it's a possibility that our officers acted in a manner that's consistent with the use of force spectrum that are allowed and afforded to law enforcement officers. So it's not uncommon to release the body-worn camera footage. This footage that we saw, and we'll just get a snippet of it here, it was weird because they just kind of put out the footage. Normally, you want to put a narrative in front of the footage to give context to the video. This is the date, this is the time, this is where we were, this is what was going on, this was the situation, it was dark. You want to lay the foundation, because if you just put a video out there with no context, a third party who's observing it may not be able to get the true essence of what was going on.
News 4's Paul Wagner has the story.
On Monday night, November 17th, near the Deanwood Metro Station, DC police say officers spotted David Childs with a gun in his waistband and gave chase.
All right, now those are some highly skilled officers. I've been somewhere before, though, and an officer was like, oh, man, that's a nice gun you got in your waistband. I was like, huh? But, I wasn't going to take off running because my shit's legit. But so far, this is just the facts we got that the officers are reporting. They spotted him with a gun in his waistband. They approached him. A chase ensued. I don't know the necessary facts around it, but generally, if you got a firearm and police are approaching you, most people are probably going to haul ass and run, especially if the firearm isn't a legitimate firearm or you aren't the lawful person, a lawful possessor of said firearm.
The body camera video released by police doesn't show the initial interaction. It begins in the middle of a foot pursuit that ended here outside this apartment building on 47th Place Northeast. It's very hard to tell from the body camera video, but the officer who had David Childs at gunpoint standing between this fence and the building was here without backup and was all alone for 1 minute and 23 seconds.
Okay, that's the actual important fact that we got to talk about. Well, why is it important that he was there for damn near 1.5 minutes without backup? One, because it heightens the risk. Every factor that goes against the officer heightens the potential risk. It heightens the stress level. It makes you more amped up. It probably elevates your reaction time. And that's just actually normal. I've never been a civilian law enforcement officer, but being a soldier, being deployed to Iraq when the war first started, and it was actually enemy combatants over there, yeah, you're going to be a little extra on edge if I'm in a situation where my life is potentially on the line and I don't have any backup. So that's why that's paramount. And when guns are involved, if you've never been in a gunplay situation, lucky you. A minute and a half, a minute and 20 some odd seconds is a long ass time. That shit feels like forever. So that's why that is paramount, that the backup wasn't there, because it heightens the risk for him, elevates the stress level.
Before the shots were fired. We have edited the video for language and have frozen the footage at the point Childs is shot, but you will hear the gunfire.
Don't reach, I'm telling you, don't reach, don't reach.
Now, real quick, I want to pause that and rewind that back, because they didn't say it, but it sounded to me like when the officer said don't reach, it sounded to me like the guy said something like, well, kill me then. Y'all let me know, did y'all hear that, or did I make that up? I'm going to try to turn the volume on. That's what it sounded like. I couldn't find it transcribed, but it sounded like he said, well, kill me then. Let me make sure that I'm not the only one who heard that. Y'all let me know if y'all heard that. Let me wind it back just a little bit.
We have edited the video for language and have frozen the footage at the point Childs is shot, but you will hear the gunfire.
Don't reach, I'm telling you, don't reach, don't reach.
Why wasn't the matter DS?
All right, so this is actually interesting. That video was really grainy. Let me rewind it one more time, because I couldn't really see. You know, those cameras are like upper chest, lower chest level. So I want to see this one more time. This is like my first time.
We have edited the video for language and have frozen the footage at the point Childs is shot, but you will hear the gunfire.
Don't reach, I'm telling you, don't reach, don't reach.
Now, it looks like to me right there, I can't tell for certain because this is actually terrible footage. But again, as a law enforcement officer, you have to be able to get your sidearm out with one hand while you staving somebody off. So it looks like you can see from the shadow that they're like clearly within arm's reach. Officers screaming out, don't reach. This guy, to me, it sounds like he said, well, kill me then. And it looks to me, this is terrible footage to use, but it looked like, all right, the arms are caught up. It looks like right here, when his arms go from being up and out like that, based on what we can see from the shadow, his arm drops down right here. And I can't tell if it's in his waistband or beside his waistband or what, but that's a tough. Hey, if you out there by yourself chasing the bad guy, it's dark out, y'all chase this guy because y'all saw a firearm on him, you're interacting with him and his hands are up this way. I actually prefer that because at least I know his hands is up, I can actually see him. Once his hands drop, that's a tough situation, because once his hands drop, you don't know why his hands are dropping. He could be dropping his hands to get a phone, to not get anything, to pull up his pants. But you got to understand, this officer is essentially on the side of a building, between the building and the fence, with this guy who, according to all accounts, had a firearm on it. Now, I'm not saying that, hey, the shot is legit, but I am saying from these facts and from what I can see in this video footage, I could see a situation where the officer was in reasonable fear of death or severe bodily harm. Now, I want y'all to listen to what the family members say, because sometimes people just don't live in reality when it comes to things that their family members do. And I get it. I understand. I mean, that's your family member. That's your loved one who's no longer here. I understand.
Don't reach.
Why wasn't the matter de-escalated? If it's a law enforcement, if it's the law enforcement's job to de-escalate matters, why wasn't the situation de-escalated?
That's actually a good question. Typically, it's frowned upon in law enforcement to run, because normally situations like that, they end up bad for the law enforcement officer. You out on an island by yourself in an alley with a gunman. A lot of times it ends up very terrible for the officer. So normally with law enforcement, they tell you your best friend is your radio. It don't make a difference how fast a person can run. If you can radio, hey, he's running down 47, southbound 47th Street, blue jeans, white shirt, white tennis shoes, do-rag on. Once you call it in, you got him, and it's cameras every damn way. So I do agree that that's actually a good point. Definitely not common protocol to chase a suspect who's armed solo by yourself. Now, this young man right here, I get it. This is the gentleman's cousin. I don't think anything he's saying is based in reality, just based off of the footage. But again, it's our loved ones. When our loved ones are harmed, they're no longer here, we're going to give them every bit of deference and every benefit of the doubt that we can.
Why wasn't the matter de-escalated? If it's a law enforcement, if it's the law enforcement's job to de-escalate matters, why wasn't the situation de-escalated?
And personally, it's not always law enforcement job to de-escalate matters. Sometimes it is, but I don't think that's always their job. Point number one. Point number two, I get it as a family member, so I'm not knocking the guy, but to ask an officer to de-escalate a situation where he's chasing presumed armed suspect and he's isolated one-on-one with no backup, like, I don't know how you define de-escalation in that situation. Like, whooping the guy's ass and knocking him unconscious so he can't pull a gun out. Like, I just don't see. I don't think de-escalation of situations is an officer's job. Probably 80% of the time. I'm not saying it is not valid, but sometimes, trust me, if somebody whipping your ass or got you held hostage, you don't want the officers to come in there. You want them to end the threat immediately. I think the familial relationship here is something that's just going to make this dude biased, and rightfully so.
If you had 10 to 15 officers out here, why was there no other officer present to assist in the matter to de-escalate the situation? Why did you continue to escalate the situation, threatening to continuously shoot someone when they're telling you, don't shoot me?
As soon as Childs is cornered near the fence line, the officer apparently gets on the radio and says, one at gunpoint and behind the building.
The officer used great respect.
Now, right here, you see he using this wall as a cover, not concealment. Cover a bullet will probably not go through. Concealment means they can't see you, but a bullet can go through. A car is concealment. Brick wall is cover. That's the difference. Some people I saw in the comments was like, well, he could have just kind of stayed there and held him at bay. But again, that's a dangerous situation. He can't see what you're doing, but you can't see what he's doing. For all you know, we can't even see around that corner. Looking at this angle right here from the body cam footage, we can't even see what's going on around that corner. So that's actually a very dangerous situation. It was probably actually safer for him to bend that corner where he could actually see what was going on. Now, of course, because this guy's where that fence is, he probably is. Some will say he could have backed out, maybe observed from a farther distance, but I think that corner is a dangerous spot to be in. The other thing I want to talk about real quick is, based on the comment that the young man made, y'all let me know. It sounded like he said, well, shoot me then twice. It could be a situation of suicide by cop. I mean, that is something that people do. They'll go out armed with a gun or an empty gun, a fake gun, a BB gun, all sorts of crazy stuff, solely because they just don't want to be here no more. They're looking for an out, and they don't want to necessarily be the initiator of their self-deletion. So that could be a possibility too. It'll be interesting to see just kind of what was going on in this young man's life. Let's go and see what the officers have to say, or what the leadership at MPD has to say about this officer's conduct.
Apparently gets on the radio and says, "One at gunpoint and behind the building."
The officer used great restraint, gave multiple commands, asking the subject to please to raise his hands and not to reach for the firearm. And the subject, for some reason, did not obey those commands and reach for his firearm.
It's difficult to see on the video, but police say Childs moves his left hand toward his waistband. And that's when the officer.
That's exactly, I already knew where they was going to go. And I'm just going to be honest. If that was you in the situation as the officer, would you not have shot right there once his hands went down right there? I think most people would have. I'm just going to be honest.
Open fire. After the shooting, other officers arrive and begin to render first aid. Police say this is the weapon David Childs had in his waistband.
The point where he was saying, you know what, okay, if this is how it's going to go, then do it. When we are at the same amount of distance that we are right now in this conversation, you could have taken him down. You didn't have to keep the gun pointed at him. You could.
I don't. Yeah, this guy's just he's just not being realistic right now, and I get it because it's his family member. But like, you got an armed suspect in front of you. You're the only one there as law enforcement. You don't have backup for over a minute and a half, for almost a minute and a half. And I don't know when was the last time y'all been into a fight. But try to fight a grown-ass adult for a minute and a half. Most of y'all will pass the fuck out. A minute and a half of physically fighting somebody. So his expectation was the officer to put his sidearm down and holster his sidearm and engage in a fisticuff to try to essentially take this guy's firearm or disable him. Or I mean, it just makes no sense. I think the officer is going to be fine. He's on administrative leave, which is part of the course. But I just think with the facts that we got, as we have those facts, and the fact that they actually confiscated a firearm, I think that this shooting is going to be something that just passes any type of scrutiny from a legal standpoint of whether it was excessive, whether the use of force was appropriate. All right, this next video, we're going to stay in the district. We're going to talk about Airbnbs. Y'all remember when Airbnbs was the craze? I remember when I was doing a bunch of finance-heavy content, it was people on YouTube like, yo, you go buy a house and you rent it out on Airbnb. I seen videos where people was like, you go rent an apartment, and if you can sublease the apartment, you sublease the apartment, or you use that apartment that you're renting for Airbnb to bring in money. Well, Airbnb it's kind of going belly up because the whole point of it was to provide more of a home feeling and be cheaper than hotels. But Airbnb's got so many fees, bro. They want you to do this, that. They like real talk. Airbnbs want you to do too much work. You got to pay all these fees. They may have cameras looking at you butt naked while you shower, and then on the way out, they like wash the dishes, empty the trash, make sure you vacuum. If you don't, you got to pay another fine. They asking for too much. So Airbnbs have been on the climb, but this young lady in the district had an Airbnb and she was excited. I got a long-term Airbnb, 30 days. Ooh, 30 days of income from the Airbnb. That's money you could put in the bank. And let's see how it happened, how it played out. Let's check out this situation. It's a squatter story, so y'all know it didn't pan out well.
All of the responsibilities are on me, and I can't get into my property. There's a leak in the property. The water bill is escalating. I can't get in there to see what's going on.
A D.C. homeowner claiming an Airbnb guest has overstayed their welcome and will not leave. In this story, you'll only see on 7 News. We're digging into D.C. law, finding out there's not much that homeowner can do.
Now, real quick, D.C. law with regard to squatters is ass. I want to give a big shout out to the ATL, to Atlanta. I actually saw a story. I may not get to it. I'm kind of tired. But I actually saw a story where this legislature actually changed the statute to make squatting a criminal offense. And Florida actually led the way on this, but I saw Atlanta did it well. It made presenting a false deed or a bogus deed or rental agreement lease felony, and people were actually getting arrested. They were going there, arresting squatters, hauling them off, giving them felonies. Squatters were like, "Oh, I didn't know it was a felony. I thought I could stay here." That's what should be done. But in DC, no bueno. Let's check it out.
DC law finding out there's not much that homeowner can do. Our Washington, D.C. reporter Felicia Ashley spoke with the homeowner and tried to speak with the alleged squatter.
The alleged squatter originally got into the home through Airbnb, claiming that her apartment caught fire and it needed time to get repairs. Now, that was back in February. Roshane Doug.
That was back in February. It's the end of the year. That's actually crazy. That's crazy. It's February and we're in December now. It's almost been 12 damn months.
Bliss says she didn't know she was opening her life up to a nightmare when she accepted Shadija Romero's Airbnb reservation almost 10 months ago.
Now let's go back real quick. All right.
Romero's.
So, all right, this is what she got. She got from February 25th to March 29th, 32 nights, 2 guests, $2,400. $2,400. I don't know what the mortgage is on that. She may not have a mortgage, so she's thinking $2,400. But there's a little bit of gamesmanship here. Excuse me, there's a little bit of gamesmanship with how long this actual Airbnb stay was.
Airbnb reservation almost 10 months ago. That reservation ended March 29th after 32 days, and Romero hasn't paid another dime. But living in the home for over a month apparently lets her claim some form of tenant rights, and she refuses to let Roshane enter the property.
That's actually hilarious. I want to know if that's her Ring camera. Like that's actually wild. If you rent somebody's place, then you squat in it, then you put a Ring camera up to keep them out and observe them coming. But the finesse here was she stayed in the Airbnb. She made a reservation for 32 days. In most states, including the district is one of them, or a lot of states, I'm not going to say most because laws are changing, but it probably is most. But in a lot of states, once you're at a place for 30 days, you actually get squatters' rights, and those rights essentially make it a pain in the ass for the homeowner to actually get you out. So note to people out there, if you are in the Airbnb game, you need to take a look at your local state laws and find out what your squatter laws are. Do squatters have rights? And how many days do they have to occupy the home before these rights come in? If it's 30 days, I would never give anybody Airbnb appointment for longer than 3 weeks. I mean, you could, but you do so at your own peril, at your own risk.
I never gave her any tenancy. I never gave her a lease.
Roshane tried everything, gave her a 30-day notice to vacate, called police, went to court, and even offered Romero $2,500 to sign a paper admitting she's not a tenant and to get out.
I'm sorry, this is actually terrible. Shout out to the homeowner here for actually not trying to really fuck this lady up. Because it would be, I'm telling you, if somebody's staying in your property, something that's yours, and trying to take it from you, that's absolutely the worst. It's one thing if you scam me out of my money. Oh man, you got me, I get it. But if you try to strong arm me, which I think this is more of a strong arm than a scam, that's actually worse. This lady actually offered to pay her more than what she paid to stay for the initial 32 days that were the legit stay that she had. This lady offered to pay her $2,500. Just sign this and get out. Do y'all think she took it? We know the answer to that. She didn't. But it actually gets funnier. Let's check this out.
Romero signed the document, but didn't budge.
Now, I don't know right there. It says she signed the document, but didn't leave. Did she get the money is what I want to know. It says she offered to pay her $2,500 if she signed this document. She signed the document, but didn't budge. I don't know. I'm guessing she got the $2,500, signed it, and was signed it, got the $2,500, and was like, nah, I ain't going nowhere.
$100 to sign a paper admitting she's not a tenant and to get out. Romero signed the document, but didn't budge.
November the 15th came and she told me, this no longer works for me. Do what you have to do. I'm not leaving. I went to the police with my order, and they said there's nothing that they can do, that I need to go to court, which I've done, and I do not have a court date until December the 11th.
Roshane put this sign up on her home so police and neighbors would know Romero was not authorized to be there. A sign Romero covered with a sheet.
This shit is ridiculous, bro. Squatters are the worst.
I need police assistance.
I was there when police helped Roshane cut it down, while Romero hid inside.
It's shocking to me that you would abuse a system like that.
While all this is going on, Romero's social media shows her living her best life on trips and promoting her nonprofit. And Roshane is left paying thousands in attorney fees.
Her social media is wild. That's crazy. She going out on trips. When she go on trips, I would have went in there and locked that fucking door, and they would have just had to put me in jail. I'm sorry. I was like, I literally been camped out at her house waiting for her to come out.
And promoting her nonprofit. And Roshane is left paying thousands in attorney fees, the mortgage, and utilities for a home.
So it is a mortgage on there. So I'm interested in how much her mortgage is when she got that initial $2,500. How much of that went to mortgage? This lady hasn't got rent in almost 9 damn months, almost 10 months, 10 months actually. Like, that's actually ridiculous.
She can't even enter. I tried to get some answers from Romero, who was clearly inside the home, but she never came to the door. When a person walked out to her car, they didn't want to talk to us either. Roshane is waiting now for her court date next week, where she's hoping the judge's decision will allow U.S. Marshals to force her unwanted guest out once and for all. For now, reporting from Northeast D.C., Felicia Ashley, 7 News.
Man, there's a lot going on in Northeast D.C. We got cops shooting people. Appears to be justified, but, we'll see how it goes. But so far, it looked like a clean shot. We got squatters. Now, this next story is a little bit lighter, and there's actually just a video. There's no audio. But what is the dumbest thing that, like, a kid in your family did, or like your child or something did? I'm gonna tell y'all something dumb my son did. He's a little guy. He was maybe in like 2nd grade, 1st grade, real little guy. And they were doing like arts and crafts, and they were making like bracelets, right? And they was making like bracelets. And doing the arts and crafts, he took one of the beads he's supposed to be making the bracelets with and put it in his nose. So I'm literally at court, like in a trial. So I'm like having a trial, and I get this call about like, oh, your son stuck a bead up his nose and the nurse can't get it out. So now I'm actually frustrated because, one, my son is ridiculous, but he's a kid. But it's still ridiculous. Even though you're a kid, you could do something that's inherently stupid, but you're just a kid. You just do things because you don't evaluate and know the true stupidity of what you just did. But it was still stupid. But I was actually even more upset at the school because how can y'all not figure out how to get a bead out of a kid's nose? It's actually not rocket science. So I actually, after I finished up, school was just about to let out. After I finished out, the jury was actually out deliberating, and I actually had to have somebody just kind of sit there while I went all the way to this school to pick up this Yahoo. And when I get there and I see him, he's just sitting there looking stupid, sniffling, and he got I look up at this big ass yellow bead in his nose. I was like, looking like and before I said anything, I was like, why the hell you put a bead in your nose? He said somebody dared him to do it. And so when we were leaving out, I was like, put your finger over your nose and blow. And he blew it out. But I was really upset at the school. But kids do dumb things. Hell, adults do dumb things. But it's actually kind of funny when children do it because, again, they don't understand the silliness of some of the things that they do. Let's take a look at this next video. This is just the image. I thought this was hilarious. Y'all go get a kick out of it. I was like, this was straight out of an episode of Marvel. Shout out to the Baltimore Fire Department Little man got his head. Little man got his head stuck in the rail. Like, and that's actually crazy. We're gonna give the Baltimore Fire Department kudos on this one because this is something that they came out and resolved. They tried to keep little dude calm, but I literally watched this whole video because I was like, how the fuck did he get his head in there? I guess the angle of his head, it might be a scoop ball head where it's like kind of narrow at the top. So once he got the narrow part in, I don't know how the hell he did it. But this little dude, he can't be nowhere. How would y'all think that kid is? Maybe 4 or 5, and got his big ass head stuck in a damn thing. Poor guy. Luckily, it ended up well for him. But shout out to the Baltimore Fire Department. Look at that face. I bet you he won't do that shit again. Now I'm about to tell y'all what's funny about this video. All right, they trying to turn him that shit. They trying to turn him. That shit is not getting out of that angle for sure. But the funny part of this video is his parents are somewhere. I don't know if that's his parents, Croc over there, but his parents are somewhere. But his parents made sure that they were not in this damn video, as I would have done too. Like, I probably would have been in the video. I'd be like, boy, didn't I tell you not to put the deuce? What the hell? I probably would have been in the video. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? But his parents made sure they was like, we not gonna be in this video. Y'all just get that big head boy out of here. I don't even know why they tried this. They actually tried to pull him through, but they actually tried to pull him through, and now he got the majority of his torso stuck through. So they had to break out the jaws of life. These things is what they use when you like an automobile accident, and they actually have to like rip the door open or some stuff. They brought out the jaws. Yeah, he got to be 4 or 5. They had to bring out the jaws of life. They were able to get him out.
My heart, Lord.
They did a good job. That's actually crazy. They had to break out the jaws of life while they covering his ears up. It was loud. That was Good. Hey, that's a good story right there. Shout out to the Baltimore Fire Department. Shout out to him for being calm, and shout out to his parents for refusing to be in the image of the video. I thought that was hilarious. Now, real quick before we jump into our main story, I had the video queued up. Well, I thought I had it queued up, but I don't. But we did a story about a young man down in the South. I believe it was Alabama, and he was being held in custody for an aggravated assault. What the facts were, well, let's give the facts a little bit out of order. The young man came home. A grown-ass man was in the house, and his mother had a black eye. At some point, the young man asserts he was scared for his life. He pulled a firearm out. The victim, the guy who got shot, doesn't die. Well, on the back end, what we found out is the purported victim, who was actually at the home, was in a relationship with the young man's mother. It was apparently an abusive relationship, and the gentleman had actually broken into the home twice on 2 prior occasions. So far, I mean, I think everybody just on those facts was like, yeah, if you come home, there's a guy there whipping your mother's ass, and you know the history, he's been there before, like, yeah. Everything was given reasonable, but this young man is sitting in jail on a $750,000 bond, which is outside of the norm for the charges that he had charged with. Now, the big kicker is that the actual victim, the person who was in the home, actually doesn't want the prosecutors to press charges, but the prosecutors have they just, I don't know, they're just stuck on stupid. They want to move forward with these charges. They don't want to reduce this young man's bond. We got some more facts today that says the firearm that the young man had was a stolen firearm, and because of that, that's one of the reasons why the prosecutor is like, no, there has to be consequences for their action. The entire community, white people, black people, I've seen everybody in the community, an array of people from different cultures, backgrounds, who live within this community, who all support this young man and were like, yo, why is he in the custody on a $750,000 bond that the judge refuses to adjust? He could appeal his bond, but we're going to have to see how that plays out. But solely because the firearm was purportedly stolen is the prosecutor's justification or rationale as to why he doesn't let it go. As it currently stands, the young man attorney is trying to either negotiate a misdemeanor or an alternative, negotiate some type of first offenders program because this young man doesn't have any prior contact with the criminal justice system. A first offenders program would be great because it would allow for him to potentially get the charges dismissed. But if this prosecutor isn't willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt when the facts clearly bend in his favor, I seriously doubt if the prosecutor is going to be inclined to agree to reduce it to a misdemeanor or give this young man some type of first offenders deferral or something like that. I just don't think that's the case. It should be the case, but I just don't think that that's going to be the case. Yeah. The city should make the kids pay for the railer, watch your kids better. I agree. But parents don't care, bro. Like, I remember I would like carry my kids to the playground a lot when they was little. It was close by and they running around with their big head. And when my kids at the playground, like, I'm one of them parents who would be like right there on the playground with them. So I got like, I'm right there. They actually want me to play my big ass crawling through the thing with them. That was me. I was just that dad. I can remember being at the playground with my kids, and a little boy would like, he was like climbed up on a jungle gym and fell off and scraped all this shit up, and he just sitting there crying. And I'm like, yo, where's your parents at? I'm like, where your parents at? Where your parents at? I'm like looking around. I don't see nobody out there. His parents in the car way in the back. I don't know what they was doing, smoking or chilling or what the hell they was doing. But this little boy was in there completely jacked up. So I agree with this comment 100%. Your child did something stupid. We had to destroy this property to get his big head stuck from in between these bars. And because of that, you have to pay for the repair to these bars that your son's big ass head got stuck in. All right, now we're going to talk about an interesting story. I got an article up. We're going to read a post from the Department of Justice. Let me go ahead and share the screen. This is actually going to be interesting. The indictment was actually just unsealed today. The indictment was unsealed, and I actually want to go through the indictment. I'm going to go through the indictment, but just because it was unsealed today is not available for me to pull out the indictment. But let's talk about what's going on here, okay? Typically, when you work in federal government, and especially in law enforcement, everyone takes a pledge to uphold the Constitution. Now, when you go into these roles, attorney, investigator, agent, it could be a chemist, all of these things, you have to disclose a lot of your assets. Sometimes you actually have to disclose your assets depending on your position, your grade, your role. Sometimes you have to disclose your assets yearly. Well, what is the rationale behind that? Because jobs want to make sure that you aren't in financial distress. That's why they do a credit background check. That's why, hey, trust me, I've not gotten a job before because my credit was bad back in the day. But that's why they do background checks. That's why they used to look at your credit. They may still do. I know. I feel like Biden passed some law where that couldn't be a factor for you not getting a job. But there's a rationale behind it. The reason they look at all those things is they want to make sure that you're financially stable enough to where you won't find yourself in a compromising position where you will want to take drugs and sell them, or money, or sell in some type of information to the ops or to the bad actors. That's kind of why they do these things. So if you actually Google search DEA agents who went rogue, there are story after story after story. I want to say in the past 8 years, I could think of at least 15 to 16 stories of DEA agents who've gone rogue. So let's talk about this DEA agent, what happened, what went down. Once the indictment has already been unsealed, but once it's available, we'll go through it and cover it in depth so we can find out what's going on. But let's check out this DOJ release. I'm going to pull it up just in case y'all want to read along with your boy. But let's see what was going on. Former senior DEA official indicted for conspiring to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization. If you all aren't aware, President Trump, early in his presidency, classified cartels, narco bosses, cartel organizations as terrorist organization. Why did he do this? Well, if you classify an entity as a terrorist organization, it gives you a lot more leverage when it comes to combating that particular organization. Paul Campo, former DEA official, and friend Robert Sensi agreed to launder approximately $12 million and participate in narcotics trafficking for the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, aka Cartel de Jalisco Nueva Generación, or CJNG. United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, and Administrator of the DEA, Terrence Cole, who's leading he's the advisor on the DC takeover, announced today the unsealing of an indictment charging Paul Campo and Robert Sensi with narco-terrorism, narcotics distribution, and money laundering charges. Campo and Sensi were arrested yesterday afternoon in New York. The case has been assigned to U.S. District Judge Paul G. Gardethi. As alleged, Campo and Sensi conspired to assist one of the most notorious Mexican cartels that is responsible for countless deaths through violence and drug trafficking in the United States and Mexico, said U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton. As part of that support, the defendants laundered hundreds of thousands of dollars they believed to be CJNG drug proceeds, agreed to launder millions more, and even agreed to use their financial expertise to facilitate cocaine trafficking right here in New York City. By participating in this scheme, Campo betrayed the mission he was entrusted with pursuing for his 25-year career with the DEA. The CJNG is a violent and corrupt criminal enterprise that New Yorkers want broken. I commend the extraordinary efforts of the DEA in aggressively pursuing CJNG and those who support their deadly and corrupt efforts, no matter who they may be. The indictment of former Special Agent Campo sends a powerful message to those who betray the public trust, past or present, will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law, said Administrator Terrence Cole. The alleged conduct activity dishonors the men and women who serve with integrity and undermine the public's confidence in law enforcement. We will not look the other way simply because someone once wore the badge. There is no tolerance and no excuse for this kind of betrayal. According to the allegations contained in the indictment, the CJNG is a Mexican-based transnational criminal group overseen by Nismo Ruben El Mencho Orciega Cervantes that control a significant portion of the narcotics trafficking trade. CJNG illicitly transports cocaine, methamphetamines, fentanyl, and other controlled substances into the United States. They also engage in money laundering and other criminal activities, including acts of violence and intimidation. On February 20th, 2025, the United States Secretary of State designated them as a foreign terrorist organization under the Immigration and Nationality Act. Campo worked for the DEA for approximately 25 years as a special agent in New York and eventually rising to become a high-level DEA official, specifically the DEA chief of the Office of Financial Operations. Campo retired from the DEA on or about January 2016. In late 2024, Robert Cincy began meeting with a confidential source working at the Direction of Law Enforcement, CS1, who was posing as a member of CJNG. Cincy told CS1 that he had a friend who used to be in charge of the DEA's financial operation who could assist CJNG by laundering narcotics proceeds and providing CS1 with sensitive DEA information about the source and investigations. After these initial meetings, Campo and Cincy together met with CS1, Confidential Source 1, on several occasions. During these conversations, Campo and Cincy agreed to launder money for CS1 by, among other things, converting cash into cryptocurrency and making investments in real estate. Campo and Cincy further advised CS1 about fentanyl production and explored procuring rifles, grenade launchers, and rocket-propelled grenades. As part of these discussions, Campo and Cincy often boasted about and relied heavily on Campo's prior federal law enforcement experience and expertise regarding financial investigations and drug cartels. Regarding the drones, in one meeting, CS1 explained to Campo what we do with drones. We put explosives and we just send it over there, boom. In another conversation, CS1 asked Cincy how much C4 explosives the drones could carry, to which Cincy responded, in sum and substances, approximately 6 kilograms, which is enough to blow up a whole effing, I don't want to say. As part of the scheme, Campo and Cincy agreed to launder $12,000 of CJNG's narcotic proceeds, laundered approximately $750,000 by converting it into cryptocurrency, and provided payment for approximately 220 kilos of cocaine on an understanding that the payment would trigger the distribution and sale of the narcotics worth approximately $5 million, for which Campo and Cincy would receive directly a portion of the narcotics proceeds as profits, and receive a further commission upon the laundering of the balance of the narcotics proceeds. Campo, 61, of Oakton, Virginia, Cincy, 75, of Boca Raton, Florida, are each charged with one count of conspiring to commit narco-terrorism, which carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. One count of conspiring to distribute and possess with the intent to distribute cocaine, which carries mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in prison and a maximum sentence of life in prison. One count of conspiring to provide material support and resources to CJNG, a designated foreign terrorist organization, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, and one count of conspiring to commit money laundering, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison. The maximum potential sentence in this case are prescribed by Congress and provided here for informational purposes only, as any sentencing of the defendants will be determined by the judge. Mr. Clayton expressed appreciation to the AUSAs involved in this case in the Southern District of Florida, and the Eastern District of North Carolina, and the Eastern District of Virginia, and the Department of Justice's National Security Division. I'm struggling. This case is being handled by the Office of Narcotics, the AUSA involved. The charges contained in the indictment are merely accusations, and the defendant are presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty. So, narco-terrorism. Why do people call it narco-terrorism? What the hell is a narco-terrorist? It's essentially a drug trafficker who engages in terrorist activity for the furtherance of his criminal drug enterprise. Pablo Escobar actually coined the phrase because Pablo Escobar was the first real narco-terrorist who actually kind of took government hostage. I mean, blowing up buildings, blowing up planes, kidnapping judges. He engaged in terroristic acts. That's how the phrase narco-terrorist came up. As for these type of behavior, this type of conduct, unfortunately, it's just not going to go away. Let me pull up one more real quick. So, because I seen one that made way more ridiculous. According to this indictment, this dude had cars, a new girlfriend, and everything. As you should. I mean, if you're committing crimes for that much money, he probably should be able to floss a little bit. Let's see. All right. I'm going to just read this because this is how common this is. This is one I actually looked at probably a couple years ago. All right. The DEA white wolf likely refers to corrupt DEA agent Chad Scott, nicknamed the White Devil. I say White Wolf, the White Devil, or in the context of White Wolf. Let's see. I'm trying to find the actual. I'm trying to find it. Let me see real quick. Now this new guy gonna flood the headlines. Yeah, this new guy is gonna flood the headlines. But if you actually take a look online and just do a Google search over the past 10 years, you'll see that this is actually a common practice. And unfortunately, it's inevitable that this is gonna happen. When you have people doing a job who make good wages, but actual like average normal people wages, and they interact on a daily basis with people who have access to millions of dollars, unlimited resources, it's inevitable that there are going to be some people who turn a blind eye. I think it's the exact same reason we see this conduct from politicians. State and local politicians normally don't make that. They don't make that much money. Some do, but generally they don't make a large amount of money. But they're often interacting with business leaders, other professionals, and celebrities who have a large amount of income. So anytime you put somebody who don't have that many ends around people who have a lot of ends, and that person who don't got all the money has some influence and can make things happen, there's always going to be corruption there. I mean, these guys are probably going to be fucked. And hey, one thing you don't want to be is a law enforcement officer in custody. That is generally not a good thing. You all let me know what y'all think about the stories we covered today. Y'all let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this content, y'all check out whatever's going to pop up on the screen for the folks on the replay side. Yo, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a good one. This was a late show. I'm yawning. I'm getting out of here. Y'all be safe. Be blessed. Peace.